Any sleep? It's talkSPORT 2 you're listening to, or you're watching via the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, or possibly you've missed the cricket, you've had a lie-in, you're oblivious to the 20 wickets that have fallen today, and you're listening to this at a much more reasonable hour on Boxing Day. Maybe are taking the kids out for a run around to play with some of their new toys, and you're listening to Following On via the Following On podcast feed. However you are watching or listening to us, it's great to have you. So thanks for joining us. It's been fantastic to be hosting these shows across the Ashes. The good times continue. Not, though, if you were to be reading the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube chat facility. There's actually the kind of angst that we saw after day one. What was there angst after day one at Perth? I'm not so sure. Everyone was kind of enjoying it at that point. A little bit less today. Brilliant entertainment, of course. Jiri123 says, God, another 2-day pitch. Test cricket is washed. Kieran Longhurst says, I think today was a combination of the green deck, bad batting and great bowling. Both sides bowled well, but there were some bad shots by batters. Higo says, I said England would be lucky to pass 200 in either innings. I don't think they will. Both combined. I don't think they will in both combined. Oh, blimey. I read that wrong. I thought it was bad the first time, but he doesn't think they're going to make 200 for 20, let alone 200 for 10 in either. Mentally, emotionally and physically done. And Billy Four Eyes says, imagine flying from England to Australia for this test match. Well, my cousin got on board his flight on Christmas Eve. He's heading, well, he would have arrived. I don't think he's going to the MCG, but I got him tickets for the SCG. Kieran goes on. How is Harry Brook vice captain? Right when England needed him to knuckle down and get a big one, he played one too many stupid shots. I get he's young, but there is a time and a place for certain shots. I mean, you know, the pitch was offering up plenty. Maybe today was the day for Bazball. Although if he got out to that shot when he hadn't scored, I think Jonathan Agnew might have throttled him. Harmy, good morning to you. Happy Christmas. Lovely to have you with me, as ever. Where should we start? Good batting, good bowling, terrible pitch, a bit of unluck. I mean, there's a run out, a couple caught down the leg side. I mean, how do you assess a 20-wicket day?
Yeah, good morning, John. Good morning to everyone, and Merry Christmas to everyone. It was bizarre, wasn't it? It was like, right, we're gonna sort of bowl 3 or 4 balls in a good area, and then somebody will make a mistake and get out, or or the ball will do something, ridiculous. I mean, 19 wickets in the first day at Perth, and they said the pitch was very good. Or not the first day, 19 wicket day in Perth, and they said the wicket was good. This can't be classed as good. It was great entertainment. Don't get me wrong. I think if this was the second test match or the third test match when the Ashes is on the line, yes. But it's still a poor surface to start the test match off. 10 mils of grass, a lot of lavish movement, fantastic bowling. I think it probably sums up the way sort of cricket is at this moment in time, with the world of white ball cricket and franchise cricket and crash bang wallop, Bazball for whatever you want to call it. It's like the batters' techniques are nowhere near what they were 20 years ago, in how they view the challenge of in and around off stump to access the ball and hitting the ball. Some will say that's for the better, some will say that's for the poorer. That's up to you to decide. But the one thing that hasn't changed is if you put the ball in the right area on a pitch which is doing a bit and ask big questions in and around that off stump, I think modern day you'll get rewarded. And I thought Gus Atkinson and Josh Tongue were absolutely fantastic, setting the tone for England, brilliant. And I think Scott Ball and Michael Neser were exactly the same for Australia. And it was who was going to get that little partnership, that punt of an innings. Harry Brook, I thought he played a gem of an innings. I really did. I'm not going to have a go at Harry Brook's shot. I think he had to come out there like Michael Neser did. Michael Neser did a little bit of both. he hung in, didn't he? What did he get? He got 35 off 42 balls, but he hit 7 fours. So it was a little bit of positivity and in defence. But I thought it was an enthralling day of Test match cricket in front of 94 and a bit thousand people, and there was some unbelievable bowling. A couple of unlucky dismissals down leg side, but all in all, I think if you put a wicket like that in play and you've got good bowlers, the likelihood is you will lose a lot of wickets on a day's play.
How do you think the grounds staff are feeling today? The groundsman, do you think he's feeling a little nervy? He's not going to be he's not going to be walking down the chief exec's corridor anytime soon, is he?
No, I don't think he is. Depending on how it works, I think somebody might have to correct me here, but I think in England the ECB get the first 3 days, and then the ground or the host venue get the last 2 days of obviously ticket sales.
I don't think that's the case anymore.
Is it not the case anymore? But it used to be like that, didn't it? So
I think there was a cap. Wasn't there a cap on the amount of money that you could earn? And if it went over that, you had to give it back to the ECB. And before that, you may well be right, Harmy. Maybe that was how it worked. I'm not sure.
It was like that at some point. Yeah. I'm sure it was. But I think if it was like that, I'm not sure MCG were going to make much money on days 4 and 5, because I don't think we're going to get there. But yeah, you're right. I think the ground staff walking towards the chief exec, not sure they're going to get too much in the way of a pay rise if they're asking about the how good the surface is. It hasn't been great. 10 mil of grass. I think the last ones, I think Perth had 7 mil on. The ball was bouncing. The ball was seaming. I don't mind a contest between bat and ball if it's going to flatten out and get better. I thought the contest between bat and ball today, I'm not going to have a go at a batter on this, because I thought it was too heavily favoured in the bowlers department.
Yeah, my take on it is, Harmy, if you have in your side a guy that's taken pretty much more test wickets than any other bowler that has ever played the game, and you put together a pitch that leads a side to omit that player, and that player I'm talking about is, of course, Nathan Lyon. Now, obviously, he picked up the hamstring injury and he's ruled out the series. But Steve Smith, the day that he announced that Todd Murphy wasn't going to play because there was 10 millimetres of grass and it was the right call, said that even if Nathan Lyon had been available for selection, then the same decision may well have happened. I think as soon as you get to that point, when you get to a point across 5 test matches, because I know Sydney some people talk about it. Well, we used to talk about it being the place where you bowl 2 spinners, but that's 20 years ago. Even now, there's a chance that Todd Murphy won't play in that game either. Let's say he does, right? If you got 5 test matches played and a spinner bowls 1 over in the first test, isn't selected for the day-night test, isn't selected for the 4th test, I don't know. That's where I think something's gone a little bit wrong. You know, I think that you need to be producing pitches that bring spin, especially when he's, been so successful. Can you imagine Shane Warne can you imagine Australia producing pitches which would require a captain to drop Shane Warne? Did that ever happen in Australia?
No, I don't think so. Not in Australia, no. I think Shane Warne and Steve Waugh had a bit of a tete-a-tete, but I think that was down to a 1-day game, wasn't it, when he got dropped? But he got dropped in the Caribbean, didn't he? Shane Warne. It wasn't in Australia. I think they had a little bit of a spat and a falling out. But
you know the point I'm making, Harmy.
I know the point you're making, yeah. Would you have dropped Shane Warne on this surface? I don't think so. Nathan Lyon. It's easy said, and I think, possibly over the sort of course of this series has been, Nathan Lyon possibly would have been left out. I think a lot of people that were questioning Ben Stokes' decision, because you remember England always picked their sides 2 days out. Ben's looked at that wicket and gone, no, Shoaib Bashir's not needed on this surface, and he's just not needed. No matter how well he's bowling, how badly he's bowling. And would England have picked Graham Swan? Jeetan Patel says we haven't got a Graham Swan. Would they have picked Graham Swan on this surface? I'd suggest they would, but I think when you sort of delve down into it, I mean, both sides have picked the right 11s to go on this surface, and it harks back to John. It harks back right to the sort of back end of the English summer, when we talk about how Australia are going to play against England. What's Bazball going to look like in Australian conditions? Have England got the right tools to go and take on Scott Boland, who got banged off a length in English conditions? A lot of people were saying, if you want to beat this England side, play on something that does a bit. Play on side that seams. Play on side that moves. You'll beat England. And Australia, it just seems, for whatever you thought of what Rob Key said in the week, I'll give him credit because, yes, England got it wrong. And the director of English cricket said they got it wrong. But he had a plan. McCullum Stokes Key, that had a plan. And it was a different plan for the last 20-odd years. I think what Australia have had, and this probably surface typifies it, Australia have had a plan. Is like, right, Bazball ain't going to work on a pitch that does a bit. Where you play isn't going to work on a pitch that does a bit. Perth did a bit. Brisbane did a bit. Melbourne's done a lot. Australia have had a plan on how they were going to take England on. Home advantage. I've got no problem with that.
Jayan Ari Yaratnam 2874 says, did England seriously think they had this one at 152? What were you thinking, Harmy, when Australia were bowled out for 152? Did you think advantage England big time? Or did you think...
Not big time.
Not big time, but you thought advantage England big... Well...
Yeah.
I mean, that's... If you're not thinking advantage England big time when you bowl opposition out in first innings for 152, again, that doesn't sound like a good pitch to me.
No, not a good pitch. In a wide range of reasons why that wasn't big time. One, I'd seen the movement. Two, the way England have batted in the build up to this series. Three, the pressure on England, to be fair. I mean, after the Noosa trip, and by the way, I've got no problem with the Noosa trip. I mean, that Ben Duckett video, I'll defend the boy. You know me, John. I've seen that film many, many times before, and I've played a leading role in most of them. And been in the situation that Ben Duckett's been in. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, there weren't camera phones around at the time. So I'm going to sit here in good conscience and have a go at Ben Duckett. No, I'll defend him for that. But the pressure that Noosa trip put on them going into this, and the lavish movement that England bowlers had got, they've got Scott Boland, who got 6 for 7 there the last time he played against England there. Michael Neser, they picked the right attack for the right surface. So yes, while 152 is a great day for England, I mean, I still didn't think England were going to get 300. I mean, I thought if England can get a score that starts in a 2,
220,
a great chance of winning this match. But I mean, at 16 for 4, Duckett got ahead of himself with a push. So he's getting out that way a few times, where he's just getting his hands ahead of himself, and he's Ben Duckett at the crease at this moment in time is probably doing the okey dokey because he just doesn't know where to go forward. He doesn't know where to go back. He's not pushing at the ball. Unfortunately, his head must be scrambled. Crawley got a nice one that went across him. Who was at number 3? Bethel just looked. Unfortunately, he got stuck on the crease with a good delivery, full ball, and Joe's tried to ride it out, and unfortunately got a ball that just left him. So again, it's for 4. You're in a troubling situation.
We do need to talk about Joe Root because his returns just haven't been anywhere near what he would have hoped, what we would have expected. 100 aside, and of course you can't just take that innings out because what surprised me was that 100, he didn't give a chance. I think there was one really tough chance right at the start of his innings, which actually...
He was on no.
Yeah, but it was it Khawaja? I can't quite remember, but he was put down very early on, and then from that point onwards, it was Joe Root of the old days. He didn't give a chance. He didn't look like he was going to get out. He was fantastic. But that in isolation, all the other innings, he'll be disappointed. I mean, he will be disappointed. Have you seen anything there that indicates anything that we should be worried about moving forward? You know, he's not getting any younger. Is there mental scars there a little bit from tours gone by? Feeling of, here we go again, oh no, I can't believe this is happening? Or is he just coming up against... I mean, the word relentless has been used relentlessly about this Australian attack over the last 10 days or so. What do you put his lack of form down to in this series?
I'd say the latter. The relentlessness of the Australian bowlers. I always stick up for the more experienced players like Joe and Ben, and they've got a lot of experience. They've got a lot of this team carried on their shoulders. The weight of the expectation of with a bat, Ben with the all-rounder and captain. But everybody's got their vulnerabilities and weaknesses in their technique. Even the great players have got weaknesses in their technique. Sachin had a weakness in his technique. Ponting the same. If you got the ball full in and around off stump to Ricky Ponting the first half a dozen balls, the chances of him getting LBW or nicking off, the same as in the of Hayden. If you can get a ball in and around that sort of fourth, fifth stump, get going across him and away from him. You've seen the way Flintoff bowled at Gilchrist. Everybody's got vulnerabilities in their technique. And the thing that, for me, the way Australia have gone about route, if you look, it's been the same dismissal. The ball's gone around just above the stumps, and it's been about that fourth stump region where Joe doesn't know whether to play it, doesn't know where to leave it. All of a sudden, he gets his hands away from his body outside his eye line, and because of the sort of little bit of movement or the bounce of the ball, that little shot that runs down to third in English conditions, where he gets a lot of joy from, when the ball bounces 3 or 4 centimetres higher, or seems that little bit more, all of a sudden, you bring slip into play and keeper into play. And for me, Australia have nailed it, absolutely nailed it at England's best player. So, yes, Joe will not like the returns, 100 aside. He's not got the runs he would like. But I think you have to give credit. Sometimes you have to give credit to bowlers that they have a plan to a batter in how you're going to get him out. In some batters, you have 2 or 3 different options. You can have LBW, you can have Courts, and moving a batter around the crease. Joe has probably got one vulnerability, and that's probably fourth stump, just sort of height of the stumps. Maybe he's just a little bit shorter than the sort of 4.5 metre line. And if you put it there for long enough, there's a chance he might nick one. And that's what Australia have done. Fair play to them.
Aussie Mozzie 4043 says Root will never be known as a cricket legend. He's going to now be known as a guaranteed duck. Well, not sure about that, but
not sure about that.
Me neither. Fozjam says Harmy gave me a drink card in Melbourne back in the day. I don't know what a drink card is. Is that like a card that just goes and gives you a drink? I guess it does. Either way, Fozjam's a big fan.
I couldn't have been. I might have been full. I might have been at the point where Ben Duckett was and thought, right, I've got a few extra pints. You can have them. You wouldn't have gotten it 10 years later. I know that once I'd finished.
Well, you would now. You got plenty of them.
Lying. You get the whole lot now.
Yeah, just lying around the house. You got a whole wallet full. Josh Tongue, I want to talk about him, but first off, let's hear what he had to say. He was speaking to TNT just after the close of play.
Amazing day of Test cricket, wasn't it? Obviously winning the toss this morning and putting the Aussies into bat and to bowl them out for 150, I thought was an amazing effort from the lads.
Talk me through this record you've got. I don't know if you know about this, but you've got Steve Smith out every time you bowled against him in a first-class game. Did you know that? And it's a hell of a record.
I think I've got him out a couple of times now. I think I got him out this year in the 100 as well. So
he's in your pocket for good now.
He's not a bad bunny to have.
How does that, getting a 5 foot at the MCG on Boxing Day, that's schoolboy hero stuff?
Yeah, it's dreams are made of, really. Growing up as a kid, always wanted to play in the Ashes, and especially away from home as well. Family run as well, so it's obviously more special as well. Words can't really explain how I'm feeling.
The wicket, you wrap that up and bowl on it every day?
Definitely, yeah. I feel like the amount of grass was on it, that lateral movement, especially with my sort of bowling, I thought it helped me massively.
What's the talk in the changing room, especially among the batting group, about having to go out and bat on there? Do they think it's doing too much? Is it unfairly weighted towards the bowlers, or is it just a bad batting display from both teams?
I think obviously it is doing a bit out there with a new ball. I think it just depends how you're feeling when you're out there, how you're going to score your runs, have a clear plan how you're going to get your runs as well. I thought how Brookie batted, obviously took back to the Aussies, got those crucial runs, and obviously how Gus batted at the end as well. I think it's just crucial to make sure you know what you're going to do, how you score runs when you get out there.
Do you feel a sense of, I don't know, responsibility? Obviously, Jofra Archer is now out for the rest of the series, lost Mark Wood as well through injury. Do you feel a responsibility that you need to step up?
No, not at all. I feel like the group of bowlers that we've got, it's a very exciting group of bowlers, bowl at good pace, nip the ball, swing the ball. And I feel like when anyone's on a good day, it could have been Carter, it took 5 for today, it could have been Gus. I thought Gus bowled really well as well. So yeah, on our days, I think we're a very good attack.
Dreams do come true then. Josh Tongue grew up dreaming to play Ashes cricket, and here he is taking a fifer at the MCG on Boxing Day. And a guy who grew up dreaming he'd speak to you, Steve Harmison, on talkSPORT following a day at the Boxing Day Test is Cameron Ponsonby. And I'm pleased to say that he joins us now live and direct from the Melbourne Cricket Ground. His gap year tour, with a bit of work thrown in there, continues. Cam, I mean, just you may not, you were alive, but you might not have heard the legend of the SCG roar that accompanied Steve Waugh hitting Richard Dawson to the boundary to cap off most ridiculous day of Test cricket. He scores a century and the crowd goes balmy. That came to mind. Scott Boland with the 4, last ball of the day, and the MCG absolutely erupts with a noise probably not heard in Australia since 24 years ago, whenever it was. Can you sum up today in, I don't know, where you've got about 27 minutes, so try and get it in that.
The final boundary was insult to injury, wasn't it? Where no matter when you think England are having a good day in this series, there somehow is a way where you leave it miserable and disappointed again. I think my overriding emotion at the moment is kind of frustration that I feel like we're not seeing the end of the story. We're not seeing the end of the series. And I don't mean that by England should have won this series because that was the fairy tale finish for Stokes and McCullum. But I thought today was tailor-made for this hyper-aggressive batting lineup and the way they've played for the last 3 years. Australia have only got 150 on a pitch that is doing absolutely all sorts. And you've got Will Jacks, who's got 5 T20 centuries to his name, batting at 8. You've got such firepower in that batting lineup. And you've got lads nicking off. You've got Joe Root scoring his slowest ever duck for England. And I thought, maybe me and you guys would disagree on this, I thought Brook, even when he charged a first ball when the score was 8 for 3, I thought brilliant. Finally, this is kind of the philosophy that England have stuck to for so long. And I don't really mind if it succeeds or fails. I just want to see if it works here the way they've said they're going to try. Frustration a little bit, just because I feel like Brook was the one to stick to England's guns and he found success. But then I spoke about this last time I spoke to you guys, that level of delusion is still there. It's only a 40-run deficit. We're going to have another shootout. There's still time. There's still time for England to win this series 3-2. It's just Australia of 3 of them. That's the way I'm framing it.
Cam, I mean, we've said it quite a lot, that the hope that kills you. And I mean, at 152, but on that 152, you're fair play to England. Some of the hardest things you get to do as a bowler is when the captain wins a toss and throws you the ball and says, yeah, there's something in this pitch. Stokes doesn't always do that from a mentality point of view and says, right, we need you to bowl them out by tea time because we won the toss and we're going to bowl first. But this is that one exception. This is the one where he wasn't playing the long game. The surface was deemed that Nathan Lyon probably wasn't going to play on it if he was going to be fit. And England backed that up. And I thought the Tongue was excellent, but I thought Atkinson was really good as well.
I thought Atkinson was superb. This was kind of the wicket that he was tailor-made for. He's known for this kind of wobble seam delivery where his kind of unpredictability in response off the pitch is his great strength. He bowled a ball to, I think it was Khawaja, just before we got him out, or just before Khawaja got out. And my amateur lip reading, as the ball kind of ripped past Khawaja's outside edge, you could see Khawaja go, geez, that's a good ball. And it was, I don't know how you guys were feeling, but with every wicket that England took, I started getting a little bit more nervous, where I went, okay, I think there's something in this pitch. I think the fun's about to begin when England start batting. I wonder, something I have been wondering about, maybe this is hypercritical. England started, well, Atkinson started well with the ball. Carter had quite a poor spell early on and leaked quite a few runs. His first 4 overs, I think, went for 20, 24, maybe some leg byes as well, where he pushed one down leg side. And in the context of the game where we are playing with such fine margins and such few runs on the board, whether that will be a slight point of frustration for England, that there were kind of 2 snippets in their innings, where one at the very begineen, where Australia got off to a bit of a head start and with 30 or so for 1. And secondly, there was a 6-over period where they just lost their lengths a bit, and Green and Neese were able to add 40 runs in about 6 overs time. So for the most part, yes, England, how can you really criticise the bowlers if you bowled out Australia for 150? But then when you saw the way that the ball was leaping around, when it was England's turn to bat, and look, cricket analysis is just the demand for perfection, right? So England have bowled a team out for 150, and I'm going, should that have been 120 actually? Whereas I think overall, the bowlers I was going to say they can put their feet up and rest, but they can't, because they're back tomorrow to do it all over again.
Cam, do you think that once the grass goes, if there's enough time in this game to go, and when you consider that there were periods where it looked a little bit easier to bat, even if that might have just been wayward lines and lengths. I can't quite think of any period where it looked relatively easy for England to bat. But do you think that we're going to see a game that not quite as stark as the Border Gavaskar Trophy game that took place at Perth, I think it was Perth, last year, where both teams were shot out, and then actually the pitch eased out remarkably. And I think that both teams scored quite big, or certainly India scored very big in third innings. Do you see that kind of game coming? Or do you think this is going to be over in 2.5 days, come what may?
I think two things to that. One is we're probably too far ahead of the game for that to take place now. If, say, like 14 wickets have fallen, then there's time for us to get later in the day before that grass to die. And secondly, I'm not a greenskeeper. I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of wickets, to be brutally honest. But I remember chatting to a kind of Victorian local who's covered 1 million games of cricket here at the MCG for this match, and he just went 3 days max. We're all gone home by the end of day 3. They left 10 mils of grass on, otherwise known as a centimetre. And Australia are kind of loath to leave their spinner out if they don't have to, and they went, there's no need for a spinner here. The game's going to be happening quickly. It's going to be happening on fast forward. So I'd be surprised if we're done tomorrow, because if we're done tomorrow, it probably means England have won. And I'm so ingrained now into expecting them to lose, unfortunately, that I imagine we'll sneak into day 3. But I wouldn't be holding out hopes for getting into day 4 and further.
Well, hopefully it finishes tomorrow. But John mentioned in the opening question about the atmosphere, and shows my age when he talked about that. He said, I think John, did you say, Cam, were you born when Steve Waugh got that century? Because I was
alive.
I was on the field and played in that game, went flying past me, and I always said that. I mean, the innings was so good. I think if he had hit at me, I think I might have left it and it went for 4. I think he not only deserved the 4, but just wanted to see what the crowd would do. But 94 and a bit thousand, that looked an unbelievable atmosphere. Not just atmosphere, but a spectacle today.
It's an event. You're very aware, kind of walking to the ground, kind of at the start of your day, that this is like the only show in town. So I think it finished off, as you said, 94,000, the most ever people in for one day of cricket at the MCG. And because there's such a large Barmy Army section, it's like a football match where you've got a genuine away end. I went out into the crowd kind of around lunchtime just beforehand and wandered towards Bay 13, which has been given to the Barmy Army for this match. And they were chanting throughout, and like the ball was beating the bat and England were on top, and you're like, you know you're part of something special. And I think that's always the case really in Melbourne. You hear the Aussies talk about it, that when it was like, oh, is it 3-0? Is it going to be less of an occasion? They're like, not for us. Like, as if Mitchell Stark, for instance, played over 100 tests, And Pat Cummins was asked, do you reckon you're going to rest him? He's like, mate, good luck asking Mitchell Starc to miss a Boxing Day test. This is the event that every single Australian cricketer dreams about growing up. And you can see why when you arrive here. It's the MCG. I always think you could use nuance in these instances of going like, why is it such a good ground? It's such a good ground because it's massive. You cannot understand the scale of it until you get to it. From the outside, it looks big, but then you get into it, and the first tier is actually kind of downstairs, as it were. So you kind of enter into this Colosseum, is the correct word. And no, I wouldn't change it for the world. Well, I'd change it scoreline wise, but event wise, no.
It is an incredible stadium, and one of the aspects of the MCG which makes it my favourite ground in Australia is, although Adelaide's pretty good, is the fact that even despite its size, it still retains its character. Been to a lot of big sports grounds, across all sports in the world, and often the size of the stadium takes that away. But the MCG is, and I'm not talking about it being steeped in tradition. It's just got a character to it, which is linked to its ginormous stature. But there's just something about it, and also the sightlines. You've got a great view of the pitch no matter where you are. Something that Josh Tongue in the interview, I'm not sure you would have heard it, Cam, but he was speaking to TNT, and he said it's really important that when you go out to bat, you have a clear plan about how you're going to score. Let's focus on England here. Of the batters you saw for England today, how many of them do you think had a clear focus on how they were going to score? And I'd completely agree with you. With your surmising the way Harry Brook went about things today. Totally agree. That was a Bazball pitch. That's where Bazball should be employed. But of the other batters, how many of those do you think had a clear plan?
I'd say 2.5. I want to go Harry Brook. As whether you agree with the plan or not, he knew what he was trying to do. I'm not intelligent to work out what he's trying to do. I can't operate on the same plane as him, but he's like, I'm going to hit everything for 6. There we go. Will Jacks, it failed for him, but he came out and ran at his first ball as well. And then maybe Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes went the opposite way, which he has done for the last 2 test matches now, where he was trying to absorb pressure. He finished on 15 off about 40. We could chuck Gus Atkinson in there a little bit. I think his mindset became a bit clearer when he was just batting with number 11, Josh Tongue. But a stat that I think is relevant for this pitch, and I think one that makes me feel more comfortable, in my opinion, that Brook had gone about this the right way and that England should have been more attacking and run towards that danger they always told us about, was of the 4 top scorers today across the day, Brook, Atkinson, Khawaja, Nisa, 3 of them had the highest strike rates of the day. This was a day where there was a ball with your name on it. There was a delivery that Nisa bowled to Joe Root, which went like a leg break. There was one that Boland bowled multiples today. We saw the James Smith's dismissal, for example. It's jagged in off a length. There were so many unplayable deliveries out there that you had to get on with it if you wanted to have any chance. I'll be interested to see if the pitch does die down a little bit tomorrow and whether Australia, because on the one hand, I'm kind of expecting England to go hell for leather. I don't expect that from Australia that much. Travis Head's going to be such an important wicket tomorrow because he could really take this game away for them. But hopefully, you might say by the time England bats again, things are a bit more stable and they won't have to kind of go for this ultra-aggressive method of play. But at the start of it, when they're 16 for 4, going nowhere, and you're seeing lads nick off and you're thinking, you're so talented. You've told me, you've told the public for so long that the best way out of these tricky positions is to put your foot down and take the attacking option. We didn't see it when push came to shove.
Cam, physically, mentally, this England side, what can they chase? Because there's a lot in that question. And they're under pressure. They've been battered from all angles, both on and off the field. If the pitch does get better, what can England do in this game? Can they really go and chase 300 to win?
No, I wouldn't want too much more than kind of 200, 220. I can't tell you how 4-0 the ground felt on Christmas Eve, and we were in doing the press conferences and England were training, and it was just after the kind of Ben Duckett video and news had broken, and Duckett and Castle walking across the ground, and all the Aussie TV cameras pan round and following them, and the ground felt kind of hollow, and it felt like England were this doomed team kind of waiting, being just to roll over in front of Australia, and Australian press were loving it, and they knew they had a team here kind of who were under pressure and struggling. So I thought the fact that they were able to bowl first today, get those early wickets, was going to be such a boost for them. Inject some fresh blood into the team again. Atkinson coming back and Jacob Bethel coming in. I still think they're probably maybe in a better mindset place mentally than they were 48 hours ago. But yeah, we need a pretty strong series of events to happen for England to pull this one back. But again, Steve, we said it before, we'll say it again. We stay delusional and we stay hopeful.
Yeah, 100%.
Cam, thank you for your input as ever. Nasty Badger on the chat facility says, I like Scott Ponsby, a good analyst. So there's definitely a compliment in there, unless he's actually talking about our producer, Scott, in which case, forget that I just mentioned that. But either way, go out into the Melbourne night, enjoy your Boxing Day, and we'll chat to you very soon.
John.
Cheers, Rod. Cheers, Steve.
Sorry, John. I'm just picking you up on that when you said Cam's just about to leave. He might be off before he said Cam on a gap year. I think I first bumped into Cam about 6 years ago on a West Indies trip, which I think started his gap year, and he's still going now. So keep going, Cam.
What's wrong with it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep chasing the sun, watching cricket. What's the problem?
We're just jealous.
Absolutely.
What did you think there of Cam's point, Harmy, that this was a day for baseball, and you know what as well? This is the point I made at the end of day. What was it? Was it day 2 at the Gabba? It was the pink ball test, and Stokes and I can't even remember, but England was 6 down. There was an hour to go, and I was asked on talkSPORT. No, it might have been Jackson Stokes. I can't quite remember, but. Max Rushton asked me on talkSPORT, right, do they just try and bat out the next hour? And I said, no, this is when it's baseball has to work. They've just got to go pure baseball. And actually they didn't. They went pure block it out. And they continued like that until the end of the innings. And then, of course, Australia chased it down and they won the match. It is another moment in this test match where England seem to have gone the wrong way. They've either gone baseball when they didn't need to, or they haven't gone baseball when they should.
Yeah, I think it was in a lot of things that was down to heat as well, wasn't it? I think the point you were making was England needed to go.
No,
hard.
It wasn't Adelaide. It wasn't the Adelaide one.
Was it not the Adelaide one?
No, it was the Gabba. It was when England were they lost a clump of wickets. And essentially, the ball. It was the evening. The ball was zipping around, and it was. I can get it. You're trying to get through to the next day and then the next day, Jackson Stokes batted through that session, and everybody said, "Oh, well done, they batted through the session." And then they didn't score enough runs, and then they just got knocked over in the afternoon or the middle session, when it started to get a bit more difficult for batting. It was the evening before, so not the Adelaide one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think from that point of view, John, I think Stokes I think that could be the first time you might have seen Stokes change the plan in sort of his mind of the actual outside and the exterior, the noise, and going, if I run down a wicket here and play a baseball style and chip up in the air, I mean, this is going to look horrendous. Because if you remember, England were more or less out of the game anyway, and they managed to sort of wrestle, I think, some confidence back with Stokes and Jacks batting the whole session the next morning. So you're right. I think maybe 2 years ago, Ben Stokes might have gone, I'm not bothered about the outside noises. I'm just going to go and have a go at it. I think on that situation, that's possibly the tipping point from baseball, or you might want to say that was the start of, the outside noise affecting the dressing room in such a way that Ben's thinking, if I get out here, can you imagine what the noise is going to be like? We're already, well behind in the series. So, yeah, I remember that. But this surface needed that plan. I'm not sure that surface needed that plan. I think the game situation, possibly, you could go either way. I don't think the game situation, you can go either way in this one. I think you got to somehow have your plan, possibly stay leg side of the ball and try and swing, and hopefully that the boundaries come and you get your element of luck in one person, as opposed to 3 or 4 people get an element of luck or the odd drop catch and maybe get 10, 15. You want that one person to go on and get that big score, because I still think whoever gets a half century, 60, 70 in this game in an individual innings, that's the man of the match. That's the game changer. That's the winner of this contest, because I still think England are in this game, even 46 runs behind.
They are in this game. Of course they are. It could be over on day 2. And I agreed with what Cam said about if it is over on day 2, England probably win. But then I thought, hang on, Australia bat till T, and they lead by 250. And then, England lost 9 wickets in a session at the Gabba. So, or no, Perth, sorry. So actually, Australia could win tomorrow as well. Both sides. Can Brydon Carson, Josh Tongue bowl in the same side, by the way? Or should they be?
No, I don't think. I think there's. I think I said to Ben Stokes during the summer that during the India series, and challenged me that you've told me to stop bowling as much, and now you told me to open a bowling. I don't think they can. I think they can bowl on the same side, but I think Ben Stokes has to open a bowling because we need that little bit. I think fair enough. Josh Tongue bowler full of length, but on good pitches. I think what you're trying to say is on a good pitch, test match pitch, can they play on the same side? I'd probably argue not. In the grand scheme of things, would you want them in the same side when you've got an Atkinson and Archer?
Remember, Carson's just been picked ahead of Atkinson.
Yeah, but I think I still think it comes down to what Andrew Flintoff said to me in that interview. And remember, I keep referring back to that in this series. When he turned and he said, it is 75%, 80% of what you could give. I'd always back that because I know for a fact what you're going to give me. I know I can look across. And I think Ben Stokes looks at Brydon Carson that way. No matter how expensive you are, Brydon, I know for a fact when I throw you the ball for 6 overs, you're going to run in and give me everything you possibly have got. And some will say, well, that's not much because it's his lines and his lengths and he's not bowling that well. But I think what Ben Stokes is wanting, he's wanting that short ball tactic up his sleeve. He's wanting somebody to bowl at 138 to 141. He's wanting somebody to hit the deck hard. He's wanting somebody to get in somebody's face. He's wanting to create an event when possibly on a flat pitch there's no event happening. All these things I think Brydon Carson brings to the table where Gus Atkinson doesn't, if you know what I mean. So, you know what I'm trying to say? I think
I know exactly what you're trying to say. I just think that if you're the opposition, you're sitting there laughing at that because who would you, as a batter, who would you rather face? A skill-based fast bowler or a bloke that's going to get in your face?
On a flat pitch, I'd much rather face Gus Atkinson. I mean, as a world-class number 11, if you get me on a flat one, I'd fancy me chances to play for me off stump. You bowl good balls at me that I've got no chance of leaving. And I'm talking about a number 11 here. So you ask him who I like to face. On a flat pitch, I think there's something happening with Brydon every time. I'm either going to hit him for 4. I'm talking about a top 6 batter now. I'm either going to hit him for 4 or he's going to bowl an absolute jaffer and get me out. There's nothing much in between with Brydon Carson. Liam Plunkett was like that. And that's why he was so good in one-day cricket. So I think who would I rather face? I think on a flat pitch, people would rather face Gus Atkinson than face Brydon Carson. So I think Brydon Carson gives you an element of chance to score, but I think that ball bounces a little bit more than what Gus does. He's got a little bit more pace on it than what Gus does, and I think he's got a better wicket-taking ball than what Gus has. And I think Gus in and around that off stump is challenging. It looks good and it builds pressure, but I think he needs something in the surface for him to be, very, very effective. And even in this, what is it so far? It was a decent ball to get rid of Travis Head, He's bowled nicely on a wicket which has got a little bit in it. I think Brydon Carse on these types of wickets, I'm not saying it's a waste of time playing him, but he's not as effective. I think on a flat pitch, when you're trying to make something happen, I think Carse is what you need in a bowling attack. Now, I think you've got to have the other components to go with it. And I think that's sometimes the problem. Because if you look at the series, I mean, Brydon Carse has took, before this game, he had 5 wickets more than anybody else over the course of 3 test matches. And that was with Jofra playing. And that was, so he's a wicket-taking bowler who is very, very expensive. I think you can have one of them. I don't think you can have 2 or 3.
That's kind of the point I was making. Can you have Carse and Tongue? I wouldn't say that it's between Carse and Atkinson. But I think if you have an Archer opening the bowler, one of Tongue and Carse as first change, Stokes still need that. You still need that Mark Wood or another fast bowler to open the bowler.
Well, I think you could go in England with on a surface that's got a little bit in it with Atkinson, Archer, Tongue or Carse with Stokes, and I think you've got a well balanced attack.
Yeah.
I think the thing I like about Josh is that he knocks tails up. He can knock.
Yeah. No, I'm all in on Josh.
Yeah. I think Brydon gets flat wickets because he has got a ball out of nowhere which will get a wicket. But unfortunately, he's got 3 balls out of every over where potentially could go to the boundary. And that's a challenge. That's his challenge to evolve as a test match cricket.
Harmy, we'll be back tomorrow. I'll leave it to Halo FTW 2408. He says, what an incredibly disappointing day of cricket. A complete tip and woeful batting from both sides. I think if we, Australia, get a lead of 210 plus, it's over. Well, if he's that gloomy about going 4-0 up in the Ashes, that tells you all you need to know about that pitch, I would suggest. Harmy, thanks for your time. As brilliant as ever. Following on, Ashes Inquest will be back at 7:30 UK following day 2. So half an hour after Stumps, if it goes to Stumps, and we get a day 3. Otherwise, we'll go a little bit earlier. But whether you're listening to us on the Following On podcast feed or watching us on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel or listening to us on talkSPORT 2, thanks for joining us here on Following On Ashes Inquest, and happy Christmas.
Hitting you for 6 with top order cricket conversation. Following On Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.